The moment you stop worrying is the moment life starts moving in your favor. Worry chains you down. It traps your mind in a future that hasn't even happened, robbing you of the peace, clarity, and power you have right now. But when you let go, when you trust, when you release control, that's when the universe, destiny, and life itself can finally flow toward you. That's when things begin to align in ways you could never force. Today, I'm giving you 7 powerful Buddhist lessons that will help you break free from the prison of worry and unlock the life that's been quietly waiting for you all along. 1. What you fear, you create. In Buddhism, there's a profound truth that many people overlook. The more you fear something, the more energy you give it. Fear is not just a feeling. It's a powerful force that shapes your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately, your reality. When you keep imagining negative outcomes, like failure, rejection, loss, or pain, you start living as if those things are already happening, even when they're not. Think about it. When you constantly worry about losing a job, you start acting nervously, making mistakes, or distancing yourself from co-workers. When you fear losing a relationship, you become clingy or suspicious, pushing the other person away. Your fear creates the very conditions you want to avoid. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a garden. What you plant in it, love or fear, trust or anxiety, will grow. When you fill your mind with fear, you water the seeds of suffering. But when you shift your focus to calmness, trust, compassion, and openness, you invite positive energy to take root. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means recognizing that you shape your reality by where you place your attention. So, next time you catch yourself worrying, pause and ask, am I feeding fear or am I feeding peace? Remember, you are the creator of your inner world. And what you hold inside eventually shapes what you experience outside. Let go of the fearful stories, and you'll start creating a life that flows with ease, possibility, and light. 2. Surrender is not weakness, it's power. In the modern world, we are taught that strength means pushing, controlling, and dominating every part of life. We're told that if we don't keep everything under our control, our plans, our success, our relationships, we will fail. But Buddhism flips this idea upside down. Buddhism teaches that real power doesn't come from force, it comes from surrender. Now, surrender doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean becoming passive or lazy or letting life walk all over you. Surrender, in the Buddhist sense, means releasing the need to control things that are beyond your reach. It means doing your best, taking the right action, and then letting go, allowing life, karma, and the natural flow of events to unfold without constantly interfering or forcing outcomes. Imagine holding water in your hand. If you squeeze your fist tightly, you lose the water. But if you hold your hand open, the water stays. That's what surrender is like. The more you cling, the more you lose. The more you trust, the more you gain. When you surrender, you tap into a deeper wisdom. The wisdom that says, I don't have to carry the entire weight of the world on my shoulders. You allow space for creativity, for intuition, for unexpected help to arrive. You let life support you instead of constantly fighting against it. In Buddhism, surrender is not weakness. It's the doorway to freedom. Because when you stop trying to control everything, you reclaim your energy, your peace, and your ability to live fully in the present moment. And in that space, real power begins to grow. 3. Anxiety lives in the future. Peace lives in the now. One of the most important lessons Buddhism teaches is that anxiety cannot survive in the present moment. It only lives in the imagined future. Think about it. When you feel anxious, your mind is racing ahead, creating stories about what might go wrong, what might fail, or what might hurt you. You start living in a world that doesn't exist yet, a world built entirely out of what-ifs. But here's the truth. The only place peace can ever be found is right here, right now. Not in tomorrow, not in next week, not in some perfect future where everything is finally okay, but in this very breath, this very moment. Buddhism calls this mindfulness, the practice of bringing your full attention back to the present again and again. When you come back to the now, you realize something powerful. In this exact second, you are safe. You have what you need. You are breathing, you are alive, and most of the problems your mind is spinning are not actually happening right now. The mind may be loud, but the present moment is always quiet. By training yourself to return to the here and now, you break anxiety's grip. You begin to see that the future is just a thought, not a reality. And the more you anchor yourself in the present, the more you discover that peace was never outside of you. It was always waiting inside, under the noise of your mind. 4. Most of what you worry about never happens. Buddhism gently reminds us of a simple but life-changing truth. Most of the things you worry about will never actually happen, yet we carry them around like heavy stones in our pockets, weighing us down every day. Why? Because the mind is a storyteller. It's constantly spinning scenarios, imagining dangers, predicting failures, and preparing for disasters that may never come. Think back to your own life. How many times have you stayed awake at night worrying about something, a conversation, an event, a possible outcome, only to realize later that none of it ever came true? Or maybe it did happen, but it was much smaller and less painful than you feared. That's the nature of worry. It inflates problems, making them seem bigger and closer than they really are. Buddhism teaches that when we live trapped inside these imagined fears, we lose touch with the present moment and waste precious energy on shadows. It's like standing in the sunlight, but being afraid of your own shadow. It looks scary, but it's just a projection. The mind's job is to think, but you don't have to believe every thought it produces. When you catch yourself worrying, pause and ask, is this real, or is this just my imagination? Most often, you'll realize that you're stressing over things that don't yet, and may never, exist. Free yourself by coming back to what's real, what's here, what's now. Let go of the imagined fears, and you'll find that life feels lighter, simpler, and much more peaceful. 5. You cannot be in control and have faith at the same time. This is one of the deepest lessons Buddhism teaches. Control and faith cannot exist together. They pull in opposite directions. When you try to control everything in your life, you are saying, I don't trust. You're telling the universe, life, or even yourself, that things will fall apart unless you hold them tightly in your grip. But here's the painful truth. The more you try to control, the more anxious, frustrated, and exhausted you become. Control is rooted in fear. It comes from the belief that if you don't manage every detail, something bad will happen. But faith, true, deep faith, is the opposite. Faith says, I trust that even if things don't go exactly as I planned, life will still guide me where I need to go. Faith allows you to loosen your grip, breathe, and let life unfold with its own intelligence. In Buddhism, this is called letting go of attachment to outcomes. You take the right action, you put in your effort, but you release the desperate need for things to turn out a certain way. You trust the law of karma, the natural flow of cause and effect, and you let it work without interference. Think of it like planting a seed. You water it, you care for it, but you can't force it to grow faster by yanking on the sprout. If you do, you damage it. You must let the process unfold naturally. The same is true with your life. You cannot control everything and still have space for faith, trust, and surrender. So ask yourself honestly, are you holding the reins so tightly that you've lost trust in the journey? Are you so focused on forcing outcomes that you've stopped believing in life's natural wisdom? Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing your part and then trusting the flow to carry you forward. That is where true freedom and true peace begins. 6. Worry shrinks you. Letting go frees you. Worry is like invisible chains wrapping around your life. At first, you don't notice it. You think you're just being careful, planning wisely, preparing for what might go wrong. But little by little, worry becomes a habit, a way of thinking, a constant presence in the background of your mind. And what happens over time? You start to shrink. You shrink your dreams because they seem too risky. You shrink your relationships because you're afraid of being hurt. You shrink your creativity because you fear failure or judgment. You shrink your peace because your mind never stops racing with what-ifs. Buddhism teaches that worry is a prison we build for ourselves, a mental cage that slowly closes in and limits who we are meant to become. You may think that worrying protects you, but in truth, it paralyzes you. It makes you cautious when you should be bold, fearful when you should be trusting, and closed off when you should be open. When you worry, you tighten your world. You stop stepping into the unknown. You stop exploring new paths. You become consumed by what could go wrong, and you miss all the beauty that's already going right. You get stuck in small thinking, small actions, and small living. But here's the beautiful truth Buddhism offers. Letting go sets you free. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring or that you become careless. It means you stop carrying the burden of everything you can't control. You focus on what's truly yours, your actions, your mindset, your compassion, your choices, and you release the rest into the natural flow of life. Imagine you are standing in a flowing river. When you try to hold the water in your hands, you lose it. But when you trust the flow and float, the river carries you effortlessly. This is the essence of letting go. You stop gripping so tightly, and in doing so, you discover that life can support you in ways your worry never could. Letting go opens space inside you, space for new dreams, for deeper love, for greater peace. You stop shrinking, and you start expanding. You become more creative, more joyful, more present. You realize that so many of your limits were self-imposed, built out of imagined fears. Here's something to reflect on. How much of your daily energy is spent on worrying? How much time do you waste playing out negative scenarios, trying to control people or events, or stressing over things that are out of your hands? Now imagine what your life would look like if you took all that energy and redirected it toward trusting, creating, exploring, and living fully. Buddhism teaches that freedom comes not from controlling everything, but from realizing you don't need to control everything. You are part of a vast, interconnected universe that moves with its own wisdom. When you align yourself with this natural flow, when you let go of your tight grip, you allow life to carry you to places far beyond what your worried mind could imagine. Letting go is not weakness, it is courage. It is the courage to trust that you are enough, that you are supported, and that you don't have to shrink your life just to feel safe. It is the strength to stand tall, open your heart, and walk forward even when you can't see the whole path. So, take a deep breath. Picture yourself laying down the burdens you've been carrying. Feel the weight lift from your shoulders. Remind yourself, you were never meant to hold it all. And as you let go, feel yourself expanding, softening, and stepping into a life of freedom and peace. That is the gift of letting go. And it's a gift you can give yourself right now, in this very moment. 7. Life starts. Working when you stop interfering. This is perhaps one of the most profound and most difficult truths Buddhism teaches. Life doesn't need you to constantly interfere. In fact, the more you step back, the more smoothly things often unfold. But for most of us, that idea feels terrifying. We've been conditioned to believe that if we don't stay on top of everything, if we don't constantly manage, fix, control, push or plan, then life will fall apart. So, we interfere. We overthink decisions that don't need overthinking. We micromanage situations and people that don't need our control. We force solutions, chase outcomes, and try to bend life to our will. And all of this creates tension, struggle, exhaustion, and, ironically, resistance. Buddhism invites us to look deeper. It asks, what if the very act of interfering is what's blocking the natural flow of your life? What if by stepping back, by trusting, by surrendering, by letting go, you actually allow the universe, the Dharma, and the causes and conditions around you to arrange things better than your mind ever could? Think of a stream flowing through a forest. If you throw logs and rocks into it, the water can't move freely. It gets clogged, turbulent, messy. But if you clear the obstacles, the stream finds its own smooth path, weaving around the trees, nourishing the earth, moving forward effortlessly. Your life is like that stream. Your constant interference, your worry, your control, your fear, throws obstacles into the flow. But when you stop meddling, life begins to move on its own, in surprising and beautiful ways. Let's make this very practical. How often have you tried to control a relationship? Constantly texting, needing reassurance, demanding answers, only to push the other person away. How often have you stressed over a project so much that your creativity dried up and your energy collapsed? How often have you forced a decision, only to look back later and realize that if you had waited, the right path would have revealed itself naturally? Buddhism teaches that there's a deep wisdom in non-interference. This doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what is yours to do, and then trusting the larger forces at play. It means showing up fully, offering your best, and then stepping back with faith. You plant the seed, you water it, but you can't force it to sprout overnight. Life has its own timing, its own intelligence. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine you're holding a delicate butterfly in your hands. If you squeeze too hard, you crush it. But if you hold your hand open, gently, the butterfly is free to land, rest, and eventually fly away when it's time. Your dreams, your relationships, your goals, they are like that butterfly. The more tightly you grip, the more you suffocate them. The more open and relaxed you are, the more life has space to breathe, move, and unfold in its own rhythm. When you stop interfering, something magical happens. The right people start showing up in your life. The right opportunities start crossing your path. The right solutions arise, often in ways you never could have planned. You start feeling less tired, less anxious, less heavy, because you're no longer carrying the weight of things you were never meant to control. Buddhism teaches us that interference often comes from fear. Fear that we are not enough, fear that we will miss out, fear that things won't work out unless we force them to. But underneath all that fear is a deeper truth. You are already enough, and life is always moving you toward growth, even when you can't see it. Stopping your interference doesn't mean you sit back passively and let life happen to you. It means you become a partner with life instead of a controller. You listen, you watch, you respond with wisdom. You act when it's time to act, and you wait when it's time to wait. You stop trying to push the river and instead learn how to float with its current. Let me offer you a Buddhist image here. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a vast ocean. The waves come and go. You cannot control the tides. You cannot demand the sea to be still. But you can learn to stand with open arms, feeling the breeze, watching the horizon, knowing that the ocean moves in harmony with forces far greater than you. You are not separate from those forces. You are a part of them. When you stop interfering, you start living in alignment. You start trusting the wisdom of your own life. You stop clinging to your limited vision of how things should be and open to the larger, often more beautiful unfolding of how things can be. So here's the challenge Buddhism offers you. Can you give up the need to control what's not yours to control? Can you practice letting go, not just once, but again and again, every time you notice yourself tightening, pushing, or forcing? Can you trust that when you stop interfering, life will not fall apart? In fact, it will start working even better. This is the practice of surrender, trust, and alignment. And it's not just an idea, it's something you can live moment by moment, breath by breath. Today, take a deep breath. Look at one area of your life where you've been interfering too much, maybe a relationship, a goal, a decision, or even just your own inner process. Ask yourself honestly, what would happen if I stopped pushing? What would happen if I trusted? When you stop interfering, you give life permission to surprise you, to teach you, to gift you with things you never could have forced into being. And that is when life truly starts working. Not against you, but for you, carrying you forward with grace, ease, and unexpected beauty. Take a deep, slow breath. Let it fill your chest. Let it soften your shoulders. Let it quiet your mind. Now hear this. You were never meant to carry the weight of the world alone. You were never meant to control every detail, predict every outcome, or solve every future problem before it arrives. You were never meant to shrink yourself with worry, clench your fists with fear, or exhaust yourself by trying to force life into a shape you've imagined. Buddhism teaches that life is a flow, a dance, a rhythm, and the moment you release your grip, you allow yourself to move with that flow. You stop swimming against the current and begin gliding with it. You stop resisting and begin receiving. You stop interfering and begin aligning. All the lessons you've just explored point to one truth. What you fear, you feed. What you surrender, you free. What you let go of, you make space for something better. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment to start living this way. You don't need to fix your entire life overnight. All you need is one small shift, right here, right now. The shift from clinging to trusting, from overthinking to observing, from forcing to flowing. Let go of the worries that haunt your nights. Let go of the control that drains your energy. Let go of the need to have every answer right now. And trust this. When you stop worrying, life has room to work. When you stop interfering, life has space to surprise you. When you open your heart and release your grip, life rises up to meet you in ways you never imagined. So as you move forward, remember, Peace is not found in controlling the storm. It's found in learning to rest within it. Joy is not found in forcing the path. It's found in walking it, step by step, breath by breath, fully present and fully trusting. You are enough. This moment is enough. Life, just as it is right now, is enough. And when you truly, deeply let go, that's when life begins to work for you, not against you.